Every time I walk into a home that just won't stay organized, the problem is almost always the same. Nothing has a clear spot to live. Stuff doesn't have a place to go back to, so a lot of it stays out. The truth is, the issue isn't in the stuff itself, it's in the lack of clear, visible homes for the stuff. Because when something doesn't have a home, it turns into visual noise, and that's anxiety-provoking. So here's the habit that changes everything. Give yourself a visible home that works for everybody in the house. The simpler the system, the faster it's going to stick. And the faster it sticks, the lighter your home and your mind are going to start to feel. So if you want to try this tonight, here's where I'd start. First, pick one category that drives you crazy. The one you're constantly noticing. Maybe it's the reusable shopping bags. Maybe it's the mail. Maybe it's the chargers. Maybe it's the pet toys. If it doesn't have an obvious place to go, it becomes clutter. It floats around. It migrates throughout the house and it piles up. Because after all, clutter is everything that hasn't earned the right to be in your house. And if it has earned the right to be in your house, it just hasn't found a permanent place to live. And I've felt the exact thing in my home too. You put something down just for now, and then a week goes by. Then it becomes the new normal. And every time you walk by it, your brain does this mental double take. Where does that go again? And when am I going to get to that? It doesn't seem like a big deal, but it's that nagging thought every single time, and those add up fast. I used to burn through weekends trying to get my whole house together, thinking if I just powered through for 2 days straight, everything for sure would be organized. I'd say to myself, I have the entire weekend. I've got to be able to get this done. And even though I was exhausted and I felt like I'd worked all weekend, my home still didn't feel calmer. In fact, I was more anxious. And it was just like everything had been shifted sideways because nothing had a real place to go. I had no space. There wasn't room to put things in their place because my home was basically a museum, full of stuff I didn't use. The cupboards were packed. Shelves were crammed full of things that I thought I should keep. Every drawer was already spoken for. So the new stuff, the everyday stuff that came in, like the mail and the shoes and the paper, they just floated around from surface to surface, circling around the house with nowhere to land. That was the moment I realized the problem wasn't me, it was the system. That's when I started paying close attention to what was actually happening in the homes of the clients that I organized and in my own house. Next, give it one clear, visible home, somewhere your brain and everyone else knows where it goes, and it's got to make sense. You want your home to feel like muscle memory, like everyone can put things away without thinking too hard. If it's not obvious where something goes, your brain treats it like unfinished business. And unfinished business is one of the biggest triggers of mental overwhelm. I am sure you can relate. Then I want you to test it, and I mean literally. Treat it like a science experiment. You don't have to get it right the first time. You can use painter's tape, and you can use a marker to label where you think things should go before you go all in and start to make pretty labels. This gives you permission to adjust and adapt. For my family, it was water bottles. They were everywhere. They were on the counter, they were in the car, they were in 3 different drawers in the kitchen, so nobody ever knew where they belonged, and no one ever knew where to put them away or really cared, so they just kept floating around. Finally, we gave them one clear spot, a simple basket by the fridge. It was something that worked for our family, and it changed everything. It doesn't matter if it's a drawer or a cupboard or a basket, but it needs to be a contained space that contains one category of thing. Suddenly, nobody was asking, where's my water bottle? And I didn't have to exhaust myself from answering the one question all the time. It was a win for everybody. Just using that one basket took a little bit of a load off everybody's mental plate. That's the part people don't always realize. The psychological weight of trying to make sense of all of the stuff around you is exhausting. Every single time you look at an item that doesn't have a home, your brain reopens a mental tab. You might not notice it, but it's like having a bunch of open browser windows running in the background, and it drains your mental battery. In neuroscience, they talk about something called executive function. It's a set of skills that helps you plan, organize, and follow through. But when your environment constantly demands new decisions, where should this go? Do I need this? Should I move that? your executive function gets overloaded. That's why you feel tired, irritable, or even guilty after trying to get organized for hours. Your brain's trying to solve 100 tiny puzzles at once. Its job is to predict danger and keep you safe, and it's predicting danger everywhere. You're allowed to say, this system doesn't work for us anymore, which doesn't mean you failed. It means you are improving based on what you've learned. Over time, you're going to start to see patterns. Maybe the keys and the sunglasses always ended up on the island because the official drop spot you made is actually hiding in a drawer that no one remembers to use. Maybe the school forms never made it to the filing cabinet because that cabinet lives in a room that you never go into. So of course they land up in the kitchen. That's just closer in real life. That information is useful. It's feedback from your environment telling you how your household actually functions. So make it easier on your family and put a bin by the entryway for keys and for sunglasses. Set up a practical in and out paper bin for school papers close to where the kids unpack their backpacks, and then ask them if this will work for them. Because when you create systems with your family instead of for them, everything changes. You stop playing the role of house manager, constantly reminding everyone where things go, and instead you become a team that understands the map of your house together. There's even science behind this. Every person has what's called a clutter threshold. It's the amount of visual and physical clutter that your brain can tolerate before it comes completely unglued. When you have multiple people in one household, these thresholds are going to be really different. That's why one person's lived in feels like another person's mess. When you talk about it, and I mean really talk about it, you start building systems that respect each person's brain, not just their habits. That's when you move from frustration to cooperation. I always tell my clients, if your home still feels messy, even though you're organized, it's not because you're lazy or a family member doesn't care. It's because the systems weren't obvious enough for everybody in the house without even thinking about it. And that's the real goal here, a system everybody can manage, because when every item in your home has a clear, visible place to go back to, your brain stops spinning. The background noise quiets down. You feel the subtle shift, the moment when you can finally exhale and your central nervous system doesn't feel totally shot. That's when organizing starts to feel sustainable, because you're not working against your brains anymore, you're working with them. You'll spend less time looking for things, less time repeating yourself, and less time feeling like the house is one step away from chaos. And the best part about it is that sense of calm, it ripples. When one area of your house feels clear, it gives you energy to tackle the next. The solution isn't to try harder, it's to make fewer decisions. And that starts by giving things homes that are so visible and clear that your brain can go into autopilot. When something has a designated home and you can see it, your brain gets that hit of dopamine every time you put it away. And that's the small wave of relief you feel when something clicks into place. It's your brain saying, that felt good, let's do it again. And that's how habits form, not through perfection or motivation, but through small, repeatable moments of relief. Go find your thing and try this right now. Give it a clear home, test it, tweak it if you have to, but just make sure it works for you and your family. And remember, the goal isn't that your house never gets messed up again. The goal is that it's easy to put things back together when it does. And if you start there, you're going to build momentum and it's going to last, because your home will finally work with you, not against you. So I'd love to know in the comments, what's the one category in your home that never seems to have a home? And if you found this helpful, give this video a like so more people can find calm in their homes too. Make sure you're subscribed, because you're going to want to find me, because next week I'm sharing why I actually disagree with Marie Kondo, even as a professional organizer. You deserve a home that feels calm, light, and livable. One that supports you instead of draining you, because when your systems work for everybody, you'll find that breathing room. And that's when your brain and your home can finally exhale.